confused Donald Trump just got confronted live over the chaos in Los Angeles, and what follows is pure delusional gold. From phantom, paid protesters to sidewalk concrete conspiracies, Trump's off-the-rails response might be one of his wildest yet. We're breaking down the full meltdown, and trust me, this one's packed with bricks, blunders, and MAGA brain fog. Let's roll the first clip and watch how fast the nonsense starts.
So we have this guy allowing this to happen. Let me tell you, when you watch these agitators break up concrete and hand it out to people as they stood on line to get it, these have to be paid troublemakers.
Mr. President, you appear to say that the governor and the mayor paid them. Do you believe that the governor and the mayor paid the agitators?
No, I don't say the governor and the mayor. I said somebody's paying them, I think. And if they're not, they're just troublemakers. What can I tell you? But I believe somebody's paying them. I mean, I've never seen somebody with a big hammer so professional. Now, they took the bricks away from them. So they say, how do we get in? The military did. How do we get in, and what do we do? They said, I have an idea. Let's break up the concrete, and that's even better than bricks, and that's what happened.
Here it is again, the MAGA conspiracy greatest hits album. Paid protesters, concrete weapons, and mysterious someone funding the resistance. This man is living in a DC Comics movie, but somehow dumber. So now we're supposed to believe that ordinary citizens fighting back against federal crackdowns are actually highly trained mercenaries with tactical jackhammers? Come on, this isn't Call of Duty Sidewalk Edition. And when Trump says, I didn't say the governor, but maybe someone's paying them, that's classic Trump. Accuse, then dodge, like a scared raccoon caught in a trash can. He throws out suspicion like candy at a MAGA rally, with zero evidence and a lot of paranoia. And let's not skip the best part, they took the bricks, so the protesters made their own weapons. Who are these people? The MacGyvers of civil unrest. This whole rant, it's just Trump's usual move. Start a fake fire, and then try to sell the hose. And right when you think the delusion is cooling off, he drags the military into it. Buckle up, it gets even more unhinged.
What rules of engagement do you want for the military? What limitations?
A very simple rule of engagement. If they're dangerous, if they're throwing concrete or bricks, if they're spitting in the face of the police or whoever's in front of them, if they're punching people, if they're doing all of the things that you see done for the last 3 nights, that I would say is engagement. We need to keep our city straight. I want to save Los Angeles. And Newsom is totally incompetent. He's not going to do it. Look at the fires he had. He had fires where half the city, it seemed, burned down. What was it, 25,000 houses, all because he wouldn't take water. I released the water from the Pacific Northwest, and it came down millions of gallons a day. And it's right there right now. They'd like to send it back. There's something wrong with these people.
So Trump's idea of rules of engagement is basically, if it moves, hit it. He jumps from bricks to wildfire conspiracies in 10 seconds flat. And did he seriously say he released the water like he's Poseidon? Also, millions of gallons from the Pacific Northwest. That's not how any of this works. At this point, he's just freestyling nonsense and hoping it sticks. But hang on, there's another part of this bizarre answer that takes it to a whole new level.
All I want in terms of engagement, I just want to see peace. If there's peace, we get out. If there's even a chance of no peace, we stay there until there's peace. And a lot of people are being arrested. The rioters, or whatever you want to call them, they better know a lot of people are being arrested. They're going to be in jail for a long time. Thank you very much.
This clip might be one of the clearest windows into what Trump's really doing in Los Angeles. Because here's the thing, he doesn't have a strategy. He doesn't have an exit plan. What he has is a photo op dressed up as a military operation. The protests were calm until Trump sent in troops and started treating peaceful citizens like enemy combatants. Now he's acting like the National Guard is his personal security squad. He talks about peace, but what he really wants is control and the appearance of chaos to justify it. And disturbingly, we saw just how far that goes today, when active duty service members were caught cheering the most unhinged speech of his week. And of course, Trump couldn't wait to brag about it. That part's coming up next.
And I've never seen anything quite like that. I don't think any other president has either. You know, they really put on a good show. I asked them, did you do that for Biden? They said no, they didn't do it for Biden. I wonder why.
There could be some
Yeah, I wonder why too, Donald. Maybe because Joe Biden doesn't treat the military like extras in a campaign commercial. Let's be honest, this wasn't normal. Trump shows up at a military base and gets a standing ovation like he's headlining at Caesar's Palace. And instead of respecting the moment, he turns it into a petty jab at Biden. And the irony? He's the guy who called fallen soldiers suckers and losers. But now he's soaking up applause like a forgotten game show host. Of course, Trump being Trump. He didn't stop there. Next, he lies about a phone call, and then accidentally proves he was lying. And yes, we've got the clip.
The governor did something he did not speak to you a day ago, as you said, in the Oval Office earlier. What's your response to that?
Well, I gave him, it wasn't a day ago, it was a little longer than that, and I presented the phone conversation to Fox News, John Roberts and Molly Line at Fox News, because they were the ones that said it. And we actually spent 16-point-something minutes on the phone, and I told him he's got to get his act together because you're going to have some bad times in Los Angeles if he doesn't. We had a pleasant conversation. The proof was from the phone company. It was from the phone company. So I spoke to him at a certain time. I'm sure you all saw it. You saw it. You saw. But why would you ask me that question if you saw it? You know, I mean, he asked me a question. And then he says, yeah, I saw that you spoke to him. Yeah, I spoke to him for over 16 minutes. I spoke to him for over 16 minutes. And I told him to get his act together, but he hasn't been able to do that. I mean, the man, really, we could have a great, you know, we have an Olympics coming up. We have to put the right foot forward. We have to do a job. We have a lot of people all over the world watching Los Angeles. We've got the Olympics, so we have this guy allowing this to happen. Let me tell you.
This is classic Trump. Say something, get caught lying, then pull a fake receipt out of thin air and pretend that proves whatever he just made up. He claims he called the guy a day ago, then backtracks mid-sentence and suddenly it's 16.4 minutes. Not a second more, not a second less. Like we're grading a voicemail. Then comes the most absurd flex. The phone company confirmed it. Sure, Don. Was it the Tooth Fairy on customer service? What's worse is that he delivers this ramble like he's convinced it makes sense, which raises a much darker question. Is this just more lying? Or is this guy actually losing track of reality? And let's be honest, the way he moves, the way he slurs, the constant mental fog, it's not exactly Olympic material, but his health records insist he's 6'5", 215 pounds, and could bench press a tank, okay? And Kim Jong-un once shot 18 holes in one. We're not getting answers, we're getting state-run fantasy fan fiction. And the GOP, dead silent. Of course they are. They'll co-sign anything, as long as it comes from their golden god in a red tie. But luckily, someone did call out the nonsense, and they did it in Congress. Congressman Joe Neguse went full flamethrower mode on one Republican, and we've got that moment coming up next.
Mr. Adderholt, I want to ask you a couple questions. So I have a press release here. This is from June 10th, so just a few days ago. This is from your majority leader, Stephen Scalise, in describing the bill, H.R. 4, the Rescissions Act of 2025. And he says in this press release that this bill would, quote, codifies President Trump's cuts to wasteful foreign aid initiatives, as well as woke public broadcasting. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And it also says, quote, this legislation cuts $9.4 billion in waste, end quote. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Okay. And you'd characterize the programs that are being cut and rescinded as waste. You've said that at great length. Why did you vote in favor of those programs when you voted for the CR 3 months ago?
When these programs, I knew that we had a new administration that will be coming in and be looking at it. The president has said from day one that he wants to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse that are in these programs.
But why didn't you get rid of them?
Congressman Joe Neguse laid the trap, and the Republican walked right into it, smiling the whole time. First, he gets him to agree the programs are wasteful. Then, bam, hits him with the receipts showing that he actually voted for those same programs just months earlier. This is how you expose hypocrisy without breaking a sweat. It's sharp, it's clean, and it's devastating. And now, after that perfect setup, comes the absolute train wreck of a response. The kind that makes you wonder if they rehearsed this stuff in a funhouse mirror.
Well, because a lot of these, we send the money to the administration, and they have decided on their own to unilaterally do these programs. This is not something that Congress gave
No,
these
but,
particular.
you appropriated,
We appropriated the money, but this was decided at a agency level.
yeah, I think, maybe I'm missing something here, Mr.
I-
Adderhall. Let me just take a step back. So the $9.4 billion that the administration wants to rescind funding for, right? This is funding that Congress appropriated. You voted for those appropriations 3 months ago.
And just like that, the Republicans start spiraling. Classic, I voted for it but didn't mean to energy. He's basically saying, well, yes, I funded it, but I didn't think they'd actually use the money. That's not how budgeting works. That's how toddlers argue over snacks. Negus doesn't even have to raise his voice. He just calmly walks him in circles until the contradiction swallows itself whole. And the best part, the Republican still thinks he's making sense. But trust me, this slow motion unraveling is far from over because Negus isn't done yet, and the next part hits even harder.
With the understanding what the president would be cutting out.
So I get it. So I guess the argument is, I'll vote for, let's say, funding public television with the understanding that President Trump will ask us 3 months from now to cut the very funding that I'm voting for. I don't really understand why. Like, why not just not appropriate those dollars 3 months ago? What was the point? Why not just say, like, 3 months ago, you all could have decided, Republicans could have said, you know what, this $9.1 billion, it's waste, it's fraud. We're not going to give it to the administration. We're just going to not appropriate those dollars. You're on the Appropriations Committee, correct? You're the chairman of the subcommittee, the relevant subcommittee here. So, I mean, you have the power to do that. That's what I'm trying to figure out is why didn't you all do that?
Well, again, a lot of these particulars, we knew, I think many of us on the Republican side knew that we had a new administration in town that would be using this money wisely and not doing what we had seen in the Trump and the Biden administration.
So let me get this straight. The Republicans' defense is, we gave them the money, but we were secretly hoping Trump would cancel it later. That's like buying junk food with the hope your future self will go on a diet. It's not a plan, it's a political shrug in a suit. He's literally the chair of the subcommittee in charge, and still acts like someone else pressed the button. But don't worry, Negus isn't about to let this nonsense slide. And what he says next, oh, it lands with force.
I hear you. I mean, I think it's what you said previously. Again, I'm going to just try to figure this out. What I'm saying is that as the chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee, you have the power to say, I'm not going to vote to appropriate money for public television because I disagree with it, or I think it's waste, I think it's fraud, or I'm not going to vote for foreign aid initiatives because I think it's fraud, I think it's waste. You could decide to do that, and you don't have to go through this entire process of sort of kabuki theater where you appropriate billions of dollars and send them to the administration only so that the administration can come back and tell you now that those funds should be rescinded. It doesn't, and by the way, several of your colleagues voted against the CR for that reason, right? So they basically made the argument, my Republican colleagues said.
There are probably various reasons they voted against it.
Sure, but I think some of them have said, you know Mr. Massey as well as I do, right? He said, look, this budget contains fraud and waste and abuse, and I'm not funding it. I don't want to support that kind of waste, and so I'm voting against it. You made a different decision, as did many of your colleagues, and I guess what I'm saying is I just think that you could understand why the American people would be confused to hear your colleagues, right, and you yourself say, this is waste, this is fraud, this is the worst wasteful spending that we've ever seen, but just forget the fact that I voted for it a few months ago.
Negus just ripped the mask off the whole game. He's basically saying, you could have stopped the spending you're now calling the worst waste in American history, but instead, you passed it. And now you're shocked it exists. This isn't budgeting, it's political LARPing. They pretend to hate waste, vote to fund it, then blame the fallout on the White House like they had no part in it. And Negus isn't even mad. He's just walking them through their own mess like a patient teacher with zero faith left. Now comes the final scene.
Well, many of these programs are not being unilaterally just decimated. They're trying to get the waste, fraud, and abuse. That is what the president is going after. And that's what I totally support, and that's why I support what the president's doing here. So waste, fraud, and abuse is something that the American people voted for this president because he gave examples when he ran as president that we've seen in this government. And we've listed many of the things here today that happened in the last administration.
You made a compelling case, but I'm just confused why you voted for it.
And there it is, the big patriotic defense. It's not waste when Trump wants it gone. It's only waste after we already voted for it. This isn't fiscal responsibility. It's just Republican lawmakers doing whatever keeps Trump happy. No logic, no consistency, just MAGA obedience dressed up as budget policy. Nagus called it out perfectly. They're funding the mess, then blaming the cleanup, all while hoping no one notices they hit yes on the bill. If you enjoy watching this kind of hypocrisy get absolutely torched, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell, because this isn't stopping anytime soon. And coming up in the next video, let's just say Trump's latest outburst left even his own people scrambling. You are not going to believe what just happened.